All right, today we are diving deep into one of the most audacious Special Forces rescues you'll ever hear about. Seriously, this is so much more than just a mission. It's an incredible story of training, technology, and just pure human grit, all happening deep inside hostile territory. So let's get right into it.
It all came down to these three simple words: we got him. But behind that short, triumphant message, oh man, there's an insane story of survival, a gigantic military mobilization, and a ferocious firefight against impossible odds. Which leads to the big question: how in the world did they actually pull this off?
So, let's set the scene. The date is April 5th, 2026. After nearly 2 full days of insane tension, a US F-15E crew member is pulled out of Iran. And look, we're not talking about some quiet slip across the border. No way. This was a raid, a full-on rescue mission deep inside a hostile country. And just look at this terrain. You've got these jagged, brutal mountain ridges soaring over 7,000 feet. You've got deep, rocky valleys, and the air is thin. It's the kind of place that's perfect for hiding, but it's an absolute nightmare if you're the one being hunted. And for one American serviceman, it was both.
Okay, so to really understand just how incredible this rescue was, we've got to rewind. Let's go back to the moment everything went completely wrong. Because this mission wasn't planned. Not at all. It was born out of a crisis that required a truly extraordinary response.
So here's the play-by-play. On April 3rd, an F-15E gets hit. The pilot and the WSO, that's the weapons systems officer, they both eject, but they land miles apart from each other. The next day, a rescue team manages to get the pilot out, but their helicopters take a ton of fire in the process, and they're forced to leave the WSO, who by the way is a colonel, behind. And just like that, a terrible clock starts ticking. And right here, this is where the story kind of splits in two. Because while this massive American military machine is roaring to life, on the ground, you have one man, alone, injured, and fighting for his life while an entire region is being mobilized to find him. And this wasn't just a military search party. We're talking about the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. They flooded the area with their elite troops and local militias. They even put a $60,000 bounty on the colonel's head. Think about that. Suddenly, every person in the region has a reason to be looking for you. It's a full-blown manhunt.
So you have to ask, how does anyone survive that? The answer is 4 letters. SERE. Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. And this is so much more than a class. It's a life-saving mindset that's drilled into every pilot and special operator. It's about conquering your own fear so you can make smart, rational decisions when your life is on the line. SIR is designed for this exact nightmare scenario. And this colonel, he followed the playbook perfectly.
And it's fascinating to see that playbook in action. First thing you do, get away from the crash site. That's ground zero for the search party. Next, you make that awful terrain your best friend. You climb high, use the rocks and ridges to break their line of sight. And this part is absolutely key. No talking on the radio. Instead, he used these short encrypted data bursts, tiny little digital whispers to CENTCOM. They're like digital ghosts, almost impossible for the enemy to locate. For nearly 48 hours, it was nothing but pure, focused discipline. But here's the thing. Even though he was on his own, he was never truly alone. Because while he was playing this deadly game of cat and mouse on the ground, a massive special operations force was being assembled to go in and get him. And the scale of this thing, it was just unbelievable. The team going in on the ground was basically a who's who of U.S. Special Operations. You had Air Force pararescuemen, the PJs, whose entire motto is, that others may live. They were paired up with operators from Naval Special Warfare, the SEALs, and most likely guys from Delta Force and the Green Berets. This was the absolute sharpest point of the spiel. And the air support they brought was just overwhelming. You had the legendary 160th SOAR, the Night Stalkers, flying them in. You had MQ-9 Reaper drones providing constant eyes from above. And for the firepower, you call in the A-10 Warthog. All of that was backed up by other planes designed to jam Iranian radar and communications. It was a whole symphony of air power. Okay, so you've got the lone survivor hiding in the mountains. You've got the rescue force moving in. This is where those two stories are about to collide in the most violent way you can imagine. This is the climax of the entire operation. So in the dead of night, the Night Stalkers slip in and drop off the ground teams. They find the colonel, link up with him, and get him stabilized. But just as they're getting ready to pull out, the IRGC closes in on their position, and then all hell breaks loose.
And we are not talking about a small skirmish. The reports described it as a high volume of heavy fire. Just imagine that scene. Elite operators in a desperate fight on the ground, and then you hear that sound, the unmistakable BRRT of an A-10 Warthog rolling in overhead, unleashing its cannon on the enemy forces. It was a brutal, up-close fight for survival.
And if you need any more proof of how intense this was, get this. During the escape, 2 of the big MC-130J transport planes get stuck in soft sand. They can't get them out. With enemy forces closing in fast, the commander on the ground makes a gut-wrenching call. They can't let Iran capture these planes. It would be a massive propaganda victory. So they rig the aircraft with explosives and destroy them right there on the spot.
So after the smoke clears, after the firefight, the destroyed planes, and that nail-biting escape, what's left? What remains is the one single principle that drove this whole operation from the very start. You know, this quote really puts it all into perspective. A deep raid like this into heavily defended territory, risking not just your best people but also billions of dollars of equipment, it's the kind of thing that's almost always considered too dangerous. It's the kind of thing that, well, it just doesn't happen. Except this time, it did.
So what was the final result? Despite the absolute chaos, the mission was a spectacular success. The WSO was rescued, every single American service member got out of Iran safely, and there were 0 American fatalities. It was just an unbelievable demonstration of military power and sheer will. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. When you strip away the heroics and the incredible military action, there's a geopolitical message here. When you're willing to attempt a mission this risky, this complex, and you succeed, what are you telling the rest of the world about your power and about just how far you will go to bring your people home?